Just another business seminar. So in theater, the expression they use is, let's suspend disbelief for a couple minutes. For just a couple of minutes, just try to forget you're selling insurance. Try to forget we're in a business seminar. Try to forget we're in a hotel ballroom here in Dallas, and just, as best you can, forget about whatever is going through your mind and really try to lock in and do your best to really focus on just you and me having a conversation. Forget everybody else is here. So imagine for a moment, as long as we're imagining, that you're driving your car one night, just a regular night, you're driving your car, not doing anything wrong. All of a sudden, police car goes on. As a matter of fact, at the break, I had to run out and get something for this character, and I made a U-turn. The minute I made the U-turn, a cop put his lights on, and I was like, shit. And fortunately, for me, someone else did something worse, I guess. But the point is, we all know that feeling when those lights go on. So in this scenario I'm giving you, the police officer does pull you over. And, you assume you must have, run a stoplight, done something basic, so we prepare to give them our license and registration. But instead, they tell you to get out in the car, and you go, why? And they said, get out in the car, and they pulled a revolver. No joke. So you don't argue in that situation. You get out, they spread you, they handcuff you, and they read you your rights. And you're like, what the hell is going on? Before you know it, you're in a jail cell, you're getting booked, and then a couple of hours later, public defender shows up and tells you you're accused of some serious crime that you absolutely didn't commit. How you doing? That would be a bad day. The next time you're complaining about your bad day, trade it with this scenario I'm giving you right now. That's a really bad day. And then a couple of weeks go by, whatever the process is, you find yourself in a courtroom, and for whatever reason, the person who's prosecuting you is a better quality attorney than your attorney who's defending you, and the 12 people in the jury box decide you're guilty. So now you are literally going to prison, and you didn't do anything wrong. How many of you think there are some people in prison right now who are 100% innocent? How many of you think there are people out of prison that are 100% guilty? So this, what I'm going to say right now, has nothing to do with this character, but it's a very important thing to understand. Perception is more important than reality. If you're a really good guy or a really good girl deep inside, but your group thinks you're a jackass, their perception of who you are is more important than who you are deep down inside. That's something that people who are not treating people well, they say that to justify their behavior, because let me explain, who you really are deep down inside is what comes out. Because what determines how people judge us, and people do judge us, and they judge a book by its cover. You gotta get real about this stuff. It's all real. And they mostly judge us based upon our actions. So if you have a lot of people that are judging you harshly, instead of being in denial, maybe take some accountability. Again, that's an extra bonus teaching, no extra charge. So let's go back, yes sir. Let's go back to the prison scenario. So imagine now you are in a jail and you're innocent. You ever see The Shawshank Redemption? Amazing movie. If you haven't seen that movie, I would strongly recommend watching that movie. Something I'm going to say right now will tie into it. And you're innocent, so what do? I mean, again, you want to talk about having a good attitude? So I love people who say they have a positive attitude, or this is better. Everything happens for a reason. I love people who say that, especially the ones who teach it from stage. And then the moment something goes bad in their life, they're a train wreck. But I thought everything happened for a reason. So again, the key to having a positive attitude is if we give you $1 million bonus check on the way out the door, the most miserable person in the world could have a positive attitude. Can you have a positive attitude when something terrible happens? So again, in this scenario, could you muster up the best possible attitude? It would be tough though. Imagine being told when to get up, when to go to bed, when the lights are out. I mean, it's literally like going back to your childhood and being taught exactly what to do and when to do it. Imagine only be able to go outside occasionally. Imagine if you do something wrong, they take away that one privilege you look forward to more than anything, and for a week or a month, you're not allowed to do it. Imagine the quality of the food you would be consuming. I mean, just think about all the things that would suck really bad. And probably the worst thing would be losing your freedom. I got a chance to go to Robben Island. I don't know if any of you, sure you've heard of that. That's where they held Nelson Mandela when he was in captivity, the island off the coast of Cape Town. And it was so interesting. A lot of the people who were in captivity with Mandela now are guides there, and they walk you through and explain what the process was like. But the one thing that got me more than anything is the guy said, the beatings, sleeping on the mats that had maggots in them, things that you can't even believe humans would be subjected to, that wasn't the bad part. The bad part was being an adult and not having any freedom. Just imagine for a moment. Now, if you were in that scenario, for real, no joke, what would you do to get out of it? Is there any limit on what you'd be willing to do to get out of it? In the Shawshank Redemption, this guy is in jail for years, if you don't know the movie, and he's being badly abused by the warden. You just imagine the kind of experience the guy's having. And he can't take it anymore, so he takes a tiny little geological hammer and starts chipping away at the wall in a cell at night when everyone's asleep. How long, how many days, how many hours would it take to chisel through that one brick in your cell? Again, someone said earlier, we all have a microwave mentality. We want to get out right now. Think about the patience it would take to take that little tiny hammer and chip away at those rocks day after day after day after day after day and make such slow progress. But he couldn't stand being there anymore. See, the problem with many people's situation is it's not bad enough. People get stuck in a place where, it could get worse, or, I'm not really where I want to be. But imagine what you would do if you got to a place where it was unbearable. I'll just cut to the chase and tell you this guy, Andy Dufresne, in order to get the freedom once he tunnels through the wall, has to swim through the sewer. Imagine basically swimming through a mile of shit. For real. Like, just try to fathom what that would be like. But again, that's how badly he wanted to get out. Okay, now I didn't mean to depress you and put you in this, oh my gosh, terrible mindset. But I want to establish that whole thing. Because Andy Dufresne, that movie, is a convict. In the example I'm giving you, you'd be a convict. But I know you're not a convict. I'm not a convict. I'm here today as a prisoner. There's a lot of people who are prisoners. Forget about breaking the law and getting arrested. I remember something we used in the Breakthrough book. Some of you guys might remember. There was a study where they took some animals and they put food out on a tray for them. And then after a while, they turned the tray where it had electrical current going through it. So when the animals went to go to the tray and get the food, they got shocked. So they backed off from it. They didn't go near it. Then they turned the electrical current off and they put much, much, much more desirable food out. But the animals 100% of them never again tried to go and get the food off the tray. So let me ask you a question. Is something from your past affecting what you're doing today? Is a limitation from your past stopping you right now? Is pain from your past? Maybe it's a past relationship. You got your heart broke. I've had my heart broke. It sucks. Some people get their heart broke, they get through it, they move on, and they meet somebody else. And if you haven't experienced that, if you're in the middle of a heartache right now, I believe that once you meet the next person, you kind of forget about the old person pretty quickly. But if you are so hurt and you're afraid of getting hurt again, you're a prisoner. You're a prisoner to your past. If you were in a different company like this, and for whatever reason you feel like you got screwed, again, you're a prisoner to what happened in the past. We can't let the past determine our future. So in the past, if you weren't successful, in the past, if you tried things like this before and you weren't successful, we can't live like that. Remember being a little kid where at any point, obviously I won't ask you, there was a point where no one in this room could walk. When you were born, you couldn't walk. You crawled, right? Could you imagine being about a year old and feeling the urge to get up and walk, but you go, I don't know, I've never done this before. You know, maybe I should just play it safe. Could you imagine if everyone in this room was crawling around because none of us ever had the guts to stand up and walk? See, the bottom line is our nature as a child is we see someone else do it, right? You see your parents doing it, you see an older brother, so we just get up and assume that we can do it. This weekend, here's the point. This weekend, there's more than enough people walking around. They're making lots of money. They're on stage. They're sharing their stories. You meet them at the breaks. You'll meet them at dinner tonight. Here's what you should be deducing. And the problem is, as a child, your eyes are this big, you're wide, and anything is possible. When we become an adult, we become realistic. Some of you don't like bad four-letter words. I hate the word realistic. Because most every single time a person says we need to be realistic, they're not saying, hey, I can get 6 jets. I'm going to be realistic right now. If so-and-so can do it, I can. Most people, when they say realistic, it means we have to lower our expectations. So if the London Tovages can do it, you can do it. If Andy Riddle can do it, you can do it. They're walking around. Stand up and try to walk. Now, when people stand up, and when your child, how many of you, let me hear you if your child took their first steps? Isn't that the greatest thing? Your child stands up and they're like, when your child walked, did they just stand up and start walking like they were an Olympic athlete? Or did they stand up and sort of like Frankenstein, stumble forward? Now, when they stumbled forward, did you go, what the hell was that? Really? I mean, that's all you got? I've been showing you how to walk for years, you moron. You should be embarrassed. Go back to crawling. Is that what we do? That's how some of you guys work with your downline. What the hell was that? You call that a presentation? That sucked. Then you come back and talk to them and go, yeah, man, I'm really grooming my group, man. My group, I'm turning them into warriors. It's like, no, you're not. You're getting them to be even more insecure than they already are. So people, we need to give them permission to be successful. And if other people are doing it, and you heard Bryan Adams himself say it last night. He just sat there in the audience. If all you get on this weekend, if the only thing you get is if they can do it, then I can do it. That's got to be the first step, because otherwise you may be a prisoner to your past, or you could be a prisoner to your fears. What if? When people say what if, why again do most of the things they say after it, why are they negative? What if this doesn't work? What if I buy the leads and I can't sell them? What if this goes wrong? What if the company goes out of business? What if this? What if that? What if it does work? What if you sell every one of the leads you get? So again, we can't let our fears and our insecurities, our internal fears and insecurities, we can't let dream stealers, other people around us. Again, Brian talked about a lot of stuff last night. He had a girlfriend who was his dream stealer. He got rid of her. How many people are in a bad relationship and are afraid to get out of it? Because, again, I don't know why because. But there are definitely people who are in a bad relationship, not a marriage, a relationship, a dating situation, and I'd rather be single and happy than together and miserable. But people stay together because they're a prisoner. And here's the thing. Most of you, if you are, first of all, most people don't know they're a prisoner. Secondly, if you are a prisoner, you're sitting there waiting for someone to break you out. This isn't a Rambo movie. This isn't a Western from back in the day. No one's going to get the horse and pull the wall down. If you want to get out of your prison that you built by yourself, then you've got to figure out how to do it. And here's the thing. These leg irons are real. They actually hurt like hell. Now, if I were to put these leg irons on Usain Bolt, I'm sure most of you know Usain Bolt. Most people consider him I don't know if he's still, but for a long time he was the fastest human being on the planet. I would say we could take an average athlete in this room to run against Usain Bolt, and if he had these on, we would beat him. So again, if you're trying to do great things, but metaphorically you chained yourself up, how much better would it be if you took the chains off? And here's the crazy, 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 crazy part. You've got the key. It's there the whole time. Y'all seen The Wizard of Oz, right? The Wizard of Oz is such a cool movie. If you haven't seen it in a long time, just remember this. At the very end, they go to see the wizard, and they're waiting for the wizard to say something, and poof, they'll change. And obviously at the end of the movie, the wizard's not really a wizard, just a dude. And they're like, oh my God, what a scam. But at the end, he gets them to see that the Cowardly Lion had courage. He just didn't realize he had it. The other one was really smart. He just didn't realize he had it. So you've got everything you need. 35 years ago, I lived in a piece of garbage apartment in Belleville, New Jersey. I was just in New Jersey, and I took a ride across the river. Every time I go back to Jersey, I make it a point to do this. And I went to this diner I used to always go to. And outside the window and across the way from the diner, there's some condos there. And at the time that I lived there, they were brand new and they were building them. Now they're, 35 years old, 40 years old, something like that. I was so screwed up in my head. I would sit at that diner window, look at these, at the time, $100,000 condos, and pray to God that somehow I would make $5,000 and save $5,000 to have the money to put a down payment on that condo. When I went back there many years later with my daughters, when I think they were about 7 and 10, I walked them from the diner over to those condos, and I go, and we live in a very beautiful home in Dallas, very blessed. Things turned out well. And I said, you know what? This used to be my dream house. What do you think if we move into here? My kids are like, are you on drugs, Dad? No. And it was such a measuring thing for me, guys. Here's the great news. I don't care how off track you are right now. If you're living in fear, living in doubt, you're procrastinating, you're doing everything wrong, you've got the key to turn it all around. 100%. The question is, how bad do you want it? And I'll tell you this, your sentences become your sentences. What you say to yourself becomes your sentence. The Bible says there's the power of life and death in the tongue. Stop saying to things, and when you say, some of you guys say it out loud. You make a mistake and say, you are such an idiot. Stop saying that. I mean, if you wouldn't allow another human being to say it to you, don't say it to yourself. And by the way, if you have human beings in your life saying it to you, get some new human beings. It is hard enough to win without the shackles, guys. Get the shackles off. Take control of your life. Stop being afraid. The number one thing that makes people a prisoner, well, what would people say if I date her or him? What will they say? Come on now. What will they say? Who are they? Who are they, and why do you give a damn what they say and think? I've been wanting to write a book for 100 years. I've started 30 of them, and I always stop because it never feels right. I'm finally finishing a book here in the near future, and it's all about, I think it's going to be pretty good. It's 100% all about how human beings process criticism and what they say. They screwed me up for a really, really, really long time. Let me tell you something. If you decide not to do this, they aren't going to pay your bills. If you decide whatever, they don't care. They're not paying as much attention as you think they are. So here's the deal. Why don't you decide what you really want and just do it? And the worst thing that happens is you fall. I didn't say fail, because the only way to fail is to stop getting back up. A lot of people fall over and over. And last night, Brian told you a story about Einstein. He said he failed the light bulb 1,000 times. I read somewhere it was 10,000 times. Doesn't matter how many times. It was a lot of times. Some of you guys have been doing this for a year and a half and you're not doing great yet. Stop comparing yourself to other people. That's another way to become a prisoner. Who knows why they got there faster? You know, Tom Brady said when he was do you know that Tom Brady didn't start on his college team for most of his career? Tom Brady, best quarterback ever, didn't even start on his own team. He was being interviewed recently, said, you know what? Some players peak by the time they're 22 years old. Others don't peak for 6, 7 years after that. That was me. I don't know if you know a lot about bamboo. It takes bamboo. If you plant bamboo, it takes 7 years for it to be where you can even see it growing. Imagine if you had a garden that was dirt for 7 years. And you kept telling your next door neighbor, don't you like my garden? Again, they'd think you were out of your stinking mind. Here's the thing about bamboo. When it grows 100 feet in the air in about 3 weeks. So it takes forever and then it explodes. How many would like to be like bamboo?